In this lesson, we are going to continue learning about how to calculate decimals, specifically how to multiply decimals using the long multiplication technique. First, let's recap on how to calculate long multiplication. I will begin by setting out my place value columns to guide me, and then write down my first number, which is 1423. Then I write out my multiplication symbol, followed by the number 19. Now I can start to calculate. 3 times 9 is 27, so I write the 7 and carry the 2. 2 times 9 is 18, plus 2 is 20, so I write 0 and carry the 2. 4 times 9 is 36. 36 plus 2 is 38, so I write the 8 and then carry the 3. 1 times 9 is 9, plus 3 is 12. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to pick up my pencil and cross out all of my carries, and then I'm done multiplying by the 9, so I'm going to cross that out, and because I'm crossing out the 9, I'm going to use that as a reminder that I need to add a 0 to my next line. This 0 will act as a placeholder. Next, I'm going to say 3 times 1, which is 3, 2 times 1 is 2, 4 times 1 is 4, and 1 times 1 is 1. Now we need to just add these numbers together. 7 plus 0 is 7, 0 plus 3 is 3, 8 plus 2 is 10, so I'll write 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 4 is 7, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So I write down the answer, 27,037, next to my number sentence and then underline it. Before we continue, have you ever wondered why we write a 0 as a placeholder when we solve our second line? Well, consider the number we are multiplying by. We have been given the number 19, which can be expanded to say 10 plus 9. Now, if we had to multiply 1,423 by each of these, we will see something interesting. We've just worked out that 1,423 times 9 is 12,807. But have a look at what happens when we multiply by 10. Because we are multiplying by 10, we know that we just add a 0 at the end, giving us 14,230. And there you have it. The 0 we write down comes from the fact that we are multiplying by 10, or a multiple of 10, which means that we just add 0 on the end, like we did in our answer here. So, before we learn how to multiply decimals, it's important to study the following steps. Firstly, you begin by counting the number of decimal places in your question. Second, set out your vertical calculation without any commas. Step 3, calculate your vertical calculation. And step 4, return the comma into your answer based on the count that you made in step 1. Let's take a look at some examples to see how this all works. In question 1, we are multiplying 12,7 and 2,4. First, I'm going to count the decimal places in each number. The first number has 7 as a decimal and the second number has 4. Altogether, I have 2 decimal places, which I'm going to make note of next to where I'll place my answer later. Next, I set up the numbers without any commas. And now you multiply as normal. 7 times 4 is 28, so I write an 8 and carry the 2. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 2 is 10, so I write 0 and carry a 1. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Pick up my pencil. I'm going to go and cross out my carries because I'm done with those and I don't want to confuse them for any carries that might come in my next step. Then I'm going to cross out my 4, and now remember, I'm not just multiplying those numbers again by 2, but instead I'm multiplying them by 20, which is why I'm going to write a 0 on my next line to keep it as a placeholder. So now I can use it as a 2. So 7 times 2 is 14. I write the 4 and I carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 gives me 5. And then lastly, 1 times 2 is 2. Now I can add my 2 lines together. 8 plus 0 equals 8. 0 plus 4 equals 4. 5 plus 5 equals 10, so I write 0, carry the 1, and 1 plus 2 equals 3. So now I'm going to write down 3, 0, 4, and 8 next to my number sentence. But here I am reminded that my answer needs to have 2 decimal places. So I'm going to highlight the last 2 digits and then place my comma, leaving me with an answer of 30,48. Let's try another example. In the first number, I have 2 decimal places, and in my second number, there is 1 decimal place. So this means that altogether my answer needs to have 3 decimal places. Next, I set up my numbers without any commas and multiply as normal. 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 2 is 8, 6 times 2 is 12, so I write 2, carry the 1, and 1 times 2 is 2, but plus 1 I get 3. Then I cross out my carries and cross out the 2 and place a 0 on my second line as a placeholder. 3 times 5 is 15, so I write 5 and carry a 1. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21. Write the 1, carry the 2. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 2 is 32, so I'll write 2 and carry the 3. And then 1 plus 5 is 5, but add the 3 gives me 8. I'm going to place a 0 above the 8 to act as a placeholder for when I come to add. 6 plus 0 is 6. 8 plus 5 is 13, so I'll write 3 and carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 3 plus 2 is 5, and 0 plus 8 is 8. Now I write down 8, 5, 4, 3, and 6 next to my number sentence. But here again, I have a reminder that the answer needs to have 3 decimal places. So highlight your last 3 digits and insert your comma. This leaves a final answer of 85,436. It is important that your commas only appear in your number sentence and your answer, and not in any working out. You show your commas when working out addition, subtraction, and even division, but never multiplication. Pause the video and give the following a go on your own. Before I start, I need to find out how many decimal places each answer needs to have. So I'm going to highlight all the digits which are decimals. Question 1 should have 1 decimal place in its answer. Question 2 should end up with 3 decimal places. And questions 3 and 4 should both have answers with 2 decimal places. Now it's time to calculate. For question 1, once you've set out your working without any commas, your first line should calculate to 2,628. Your second line should come to 52,560. And your final line should come to 55,188. Remember, you need to have inserted a comma so that you have 1 decimal place. So this means that your final answer should be 5,518,8. For question 2, once you've set up your working out, your first line should calculate to 7,820. Your second line should come to 46,920. And your final line should end up being 54,740. Remember that your final answer needs to have 3 decimal places, so once you've inserted your comma, it should read 54,740, or you could leave off that last 0 and it would just be 54,74. For question 3, your first line should calculate to 5,841 and your second line to 155,760. When you add those 2 lines together, you should end up with 161,601. But again, remember, you need to have 2 decimal places in your answer. So this means that your final answer should be 1,616,01. For the last question, your first line should have come to 1,302 and your second line to 4,340. When you add those together, you should have ended up with 5,642. But remember, you need 2 decimal places in your answer. So when you separate the last 2 digits and insert your comma, you end up with 56,42. And this is how you multiply decimals. If you've missed the lesson on adding and subtracting decimals, make sure to check it out.